Hey guys, I'm here today with Wendy Bryan, who has some pretty awesome stories to tell us about yearbook and how it's impacted her life. So, welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
Why
Thank
don't
you
you
for
tell us?
having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history as a yearbooker?
Okay, well, I came to teaching in 2003, and the first year that I taught, I did not have yearbook, but I did have a journalism degree. So the second year that I taught, I inherited yearbook for the advisor who left. Um, I will have to say the students that year taught me everything you ever wanted to know about yearbook, as along with Kim. She was my first and only. Well, I guess I had a break one time, but she was my first rep, and so she was very patient with me. But the students really taught me about how to run a yearbook class and how to make a book. And at that time, it was not online. So it was on computer, but it was not online. So we only had 4 stations where we made the book, and they taught me a lot about organization. So fast forward, I ended up making 10 yearbooks over about 14 years in teaching. I did take a break and go to another school, so I had another company and rep at that time for 2 years, and then I came back and I had Kim again as my rep, and also you for the next 7 years.
Okay,
So that's my experience in teaching.
great. And so you have now left the teaching profession and have a different role. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So now in February, I left teaching and I went to the Sanford Tourism Development Authority, where I am their first executive director. This is very much a marketing job. And my job is to get visitors into the community, and more importantly, probably overnight visitors into the community. And
Okay.
so, what I've learned from that job is more of a steep learning curve about digital marketing.
Okay. Okay. So I hear that you have been able to apply a lot of what you learned in teaching and in your book to this new job in tourism and in marketing.
Right. What has really surprised me is how the skills have transferred, because not just I do make publications, so that's a very obvious way that skills transfer, especially with layout and design and knowing and yeah, knowing about where to put things and colors and all the things that we learned from your book. Also photography. I was actually out last week taking pictures in the rain, and I thought, I don't want to take these pictures in the rain, but I used to tell my students that, oh, you can get great pictures on rainy days. And I remember the examples of things I would tell them they could take pictures of. So I was out taking pictures in the rain. Those pictures went into a newsletter. I have taken pictures. So I work with a professional marketing team out of Raleigh, and they do the heavy lifting, honestly. But I'm always so proud when they use one of my pictures, because they can't be everywhere I can be. We do have multiple professional photo shoots every year where we build a category of assets to use throughout the year, both video and photography. But my pictures that I take, that I learned how to take from learning how to teach your book, are on paid social and in paid publication advertising space several times a month. So just being able to collaborate and contribute to true professionals in that sense, because my job is more a jack of all trades. I have to manage as well as participate in the marketing. So those are pretty direct ways, I think, that yearbook skills um, have been to my advantage. But also there's been indirect ways. We're getting ready to do our first visitor's guide, and so that's a 28-page publication that the marketing team will be making in its entirety. But when it came to the pricing, they sent me the pricing for the content and then the printing, and I was able to say, well, wait a minute, let me bid this printing. How many pages? What's the color process? Or do you have a film on your cover? Do we have a laminate? Or how are we going to bind it? And so I had enough knowledge to ask the right questions, to be able to be confident in that way, to be able to, bid the project and do it fairly. And as it turned out, the prices that they sent me were very competitive, but you have to know that. To manage a budget for the whole organization, well, I had to manage a yearbook budget, and I had to be, and a big part of my budget, almost 2/3, is marketing. And of that is content and printing and delivery and paid media. Well, you cover all that, right? Because you're not paying for your content, of course. Grades pay for your content because students do the content and then they get the grade. but you are allocating your people resources to where you think the best fit. And you definitely are minding sales, you're minding marketing campaigns. In those cute marketing campaigns that you guys, the students, are doing, that's the type of things that's in the real world. I mean, we're getting ready to run a breakup with 2020 New Year's package instead of a ring in 2021. So it's those fun play on words that you're learning, all of the writing skills that you're learning, all of that plays into it. And then minding the dollars too, with how much are you paying for, if you add advertising pages, this is a question I had every year. Why can't we have more senior ads? Why can't we have more? If you're adding pages, at what cost? And are you able to recoup your costs for what you're running? And those are the questions I ask myself every day. And where's the best place to put something?
That's amazing. One of the things that we always tell our yearbook advisors and our principals and our students is that yearbook is one of the only classes where you learn real world skills. And I think a lot of times people hear that and kind of brush past it, but clearly it's true. You are taking away skills you've learned in that classroom, even as the teacher, and being able to apply them to a new career and a new job. And that's amazing.
It is absolutely true. And I've told my students that, and I believed it at the time, but now I just look back and think how true that is, and how, you know, everything you do is preparing you to do something in the real world. And I would say, especially getting out of your comfort zone and talking to peers and interviewing peers that you've never met before or talked to before, especially taking on a task that you don't know how to do. I always have people who would prefer to write or prefer to do photography or prefer to do design, but you really need to learn all of it. Even if it's part of that's not your favorite, you have a basis to grow from because you've been exposed to it.
Think about students calling local businesses to ask for advertising in your book. How could that apply in the future?
Absolutely. Well, I really haven't had to ask anybody yet to pitch in funds, but I have had to ask them to go in with me on campaigns and to do something special at their own business or out of the box, or do something that's not quite what, in their business model, but because we're in special times, are they willing to be a risk taker and go in with us and be a part of a campaign? So I'm asking people all the time to really dig deep and explore what they do, and maybe it has to change, or maybe it should change. Right. So I think having those conversations with a advertiser where you say, well, I know you've never run a yearbook ad before, but this is what we can offer you. I'm having those same conversations. If you go in with Visit Sanford and you go and you become part of our campaign, this is what we believe will be the advantage for your business. And actually, we just have got a national recording group. They own a radio station and they manage independent music, and they have come to us and they're going to put on a music festival here.
Wow.
So, right. So, talking to them and saying, well, we're close to Capital Broadcasting, and we can, we can partner here, we can partner there. So adapting their business model, but also making suggestions about what else we can offer. So I think that's what you do when you go and ask for an ad.
Another thing that comes to mind that I think maybe would correlate with your new position, whenever we talk about coverage in a yearbook, we talk about covering every portion of the student body. And just because what one student is involved in and is important to them, maybe it's not the same as yours, but we still want to cover that. And I can see that being relevant in your position as well. Maybe music isn't your thing. Maybe you're more of a sports mom, but you can see how other people could be invested in that, and being able to pull from, content that everybody could enjoy, and think about things in that way.
I mean, I think that's exactly right on two sides. First of all, we have 6 or 8 pillars that anything we do, I have to ask myself, are we actually marketing a pillar that we intend to market? Whether it be outdoor assets, the arts, those are the types of pillars we have. Like, what are the assets in our community? Who's our audience? What are we telling them? What's our messaging? And where do we put that messaging? So all that's always going to be the same. At the same time, I think, like with the music festival, we've already talked about, well, when you combine events, then you reach more types of audiences and your event is more successful. So we will have, food vendors, we'll have craft vendors, everything will be handmade. We may have there's been some discussion of some armchair races and things that just appeal, like you say, to a broader audience. And so you have to think about, and that's a good point, because one day I was thinking about that, it came to mind about putting fantasy football on the football page, because something I was doing, we were trying to figure out how to meet multiple needs or who our audience really is. And at the same time, all TDAs in this political climate have had to look at, do we have a diversity and inclusion policy? And if we do, are we doing our best work with it? And are we reaching all audiences, and are all audiences interested in what we're offering? Because we want everyone to come enjoy our community. And I would think all TDAs would say that too. And we want people to feel welcome when they come here. So I think you do have to look at it from multiple viewpoints.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. I think that what you're doing in the community is amazing. And I'm excited to see what happens when Corona finally, allows you to really have some great events.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I really can't say enough that, and I will have to say Jostens in particular, I can't say enough what they are doing to stay on the forefront of the technology that students will use in the future, the marketing plans that they'll use in the future. All the skills that Jostens provides in their kits, in their resources. Every bit of the design that I learned from Yearbook Avenue is what I'm using in a new program. So the more you can learn about all of these assets, I think the better you'll be as a student.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.